The next sutta, 5.15.144. Once while dwelling near Saketa at Three-Thorn Grove, the Exalted One addressed the monks, saying, "Monks." "Lord," they replied, and the Exalted One said, "Monks, good is it for a monk from time to time to abide conscious of the distasteful in what is not distasteful, conscious of what is not distasteful in the distasteful, conscious of the distasteful in both what is not and what is distasteful, conscious of what is not distasteful in both what is and what is not distasteful. Monks, good is it for a monk from time to time, rid of all that, both the distasteful and what is not, to abide in equanimity, mindful and self-possessed. Monks, pressing toward what good mark or what good aim should a monk abide conscious of the distasteful in what is not distasteful?" He thinks to himself, "May the passion of impassioning states surge not within me. It is verily pressing towards this good mark that a monk abides conscious of the distasteful in what is not distasteful. And pressing toward what good mark should a monk abide conscious of what is not distasteful in the distasteful. May the defilement of defiling states surge not within me. It is verily pressing toward this good mark that a monk abides thus. And pressing towards what good mark should a monk abide conscious of the distasteful in both what is not and what is distasteful. May the passion of impassioning states and the defilement of defiling states surge not within me. It is verily thus. And pressing toward what good mark should a monk abide conscious of what is not distasteful in both what is and what is not distasteful. May the defilement of defiling states and the passion of impassioning states surge not within me. It is verily pressing toward this good mark that a monk abides conscious of what is not distasteful in both what is and what is not distasteful. Monks, pressing toward what good mark should a monk abide in equanimity, mindful and self-possessed, rid of both the distasteful and what is not distasteful. May never anywhere, in any place, in any way, within me surge the passion of impassioning states. May never anywhere, in any place, in any way, surge within me the defilement of defiling states. May never anywhere, in any place, in any way, within me surge the confusion of confounding states. It is verily pressing toward this good mark that a monk abides in equanimity, mindful and self-possessed, rid of both the distasteful and what is not distasteful. That's the end of the sutta. This is one of the suttas where it's a bit hard to understand, especially you hear it the first time. Get a bit confused, what is distasteful, what is not distasteful. So first I have to explain that what is not distasteful is what is attractive. So what is attractive gives rise to impassioning states. That means to passion. Because what is attractive, like seeing somebody of the opposite sex, gives rise to passion, that is impassioning states. And then the opposite is what is distasteful. What is distasteful is what is loathsome. And what is loathsome gives rise to defiling states of aversion. You feel aversion, you feel repulsion. It's something loathsome. So here the Buddha is saying that once in a while a monk should abide conscious of the distasteful, that is the loathsome, in what is attractive. When you see something attractive, you learn to see the loathsomeness in that, for example, in a body. Why? So that passion may not overcome you. And the second one, may the defilement of defiling states The second one is conscious of what is not distasteful in the distasteful. That means in the loathsome. For example, you see a dead body. For example, sometimes you go to a funeral, somebody's funeral, you see the body lying there. It's distasteful, that means it's loathsome. So you have to train yourself to sometimes to be conscious of what is not loathsome in the loathsome. Otherwise you feel aversion, you feel repulsion. Some people, they cannot stand looking at a corpse, and they dare not look at a corpse. The third one, abide conscious of the distasteful in both what is not and what is distasteful. That means in the attractive and in the loathsome, you try to see the loathsomeness of both. And then the fourth one, conscious of what is not distasteful in both what is and what is not distasteful. That means in both the attractive and the loathsome sides, you try to see the attractiveness of it, or at least not the loathsomeness of it. And then the last one, you learn to abide in equanimity, mindful and self-possessed, so that in future if you can abide equanimous, then all these different states of attractiveness and loathsomeness, states of attraction and repulsion, will not sway your heart. To learn that, to practice that, we have to attain a very equanimous state, a very mindful state, and that is to be found in samadhi. When our mind is in samadhi, it is very equanimous, it is strong, and when it is strong, it is not easily shaken. If you continually train your mind to abide in that state, it learns to be very steady like a rock, so that it's not easily shaken. So these are the different trainings that we practice. In fact, in all these trainings, samadhi is very, very important, because without samadhi, sometimes we know that we should not be moved by certain states, and yet we are moved. For example, a man may have a wife and children, and he knows he has responsibility towards the wife and children, and yet sometimes he sees the secretary young and attractive, and he knows it's wrong to start an affair with her, and yet he is so moved by the sight of this beautiful girl, moved by the sound of this beautiful girl, etc. Then he does something that he should not do, because his mind is not strong enough. Becomes a slave of the senses. That's why in all this, samadhi is very important. Now the next sutta is 5.15.145. Pursuing 5 things, monks, one is surely cast into hell as the reward. What 5? One destroys life, takes what is not given, lusts after evil passions, lies, and lives in the idleness of liquor and strong drink indulgence. Verily, monks, pursuing these 5 things, one is surely cast into hell as the reward. That's the end of the sutta. This are the 5 precepts. And if we break the 5 precepts continually and in a serious degree, then we will definitely go to hell. The first one, if we always take life, like some people always go hunting and fishing, and takes what is not given. That means you steal or you cheat somebody and cause the family to suffer, and that can bring us to hell also. The third one is to commit adultery. The fourth one is to lie to a great degree, not just a small lie, not a white lie, but a big lie. And the fifth one, which is quite interesting, if a person spends his life in drinking liquor and wasting his time and not doing what he should do, carrying out his duties towards his family, etc., then he can even go to hell for that. And the next sutta is 5.15.146. Monks, seek you not a monk for a friend whose ways are five. What five? He works at work or in activities, busies himself in affairs, is at enmity with eminent monks, spends his life taking the long way, the way without an object, and cannot from time to time incite, arouse, gladden and satisfy one with Dhamma talk. Verily, monks, seek you not a monk for a friend whose ways are these. That's the end of the sutta. So these are the few things that is not good for a monk. One is he is too busy with work and different types of activities. The second one, he is very busy with affairs, different types of affairs. That means in work and duties, etc. Third one, he is at enmity with eminent monks, always quarrels and with well-known monks. And then the fourth one, spends his life taking the long way, the way without an object. That means he wears the robe, but he does not have an object. Some people, they wear the robe to try to get out of samsara. That's the best motive in wearing the robe. Try to strive to practice to end suffering. Another duty, which is not too bad also, is like a person spends his life as a monk teaching the Dhamma. Dhammavuddho monk. There are some who like to write books, spend their life as a monk writing books, etc. So at least they have an object. Of course, the best object is, and the most noble object is to end suffering. But there are other objects. But there are some monks who have no object. And then the last one, this monk cannot arouse, gladden and satisfy one with Dhamma talk. So this type of monk, the Buddha says, a monk should not get for a friend. Yes, the next sutta is 5.15.147. Monks, these five are not a good man's gifts. What five? He gives without deference, gives without thinking, gives not with his own hand, gives what is rejected or thrown away. He gives holding views as to the future. Verily, monks, these are the five. That's the end of the sutta. This describes how in giving, these are the wrong ways to give. The first one is to give without deference. That means without respect. Some people, they give like to a beggar. They give 10 cents or 20 cents. They throw it at the beggar. That's not good. Because if you give without respect, then there is vipaka, fruit of it, result of that. But that's in the next sutta, so I won't explain here. The second one is give without thinking. That means mindlessly, without paying attention. The mind is somewhere else when you give. The third one does not give with his own hand. That means it is best if you give yourself, but it's not always practical. Sometimes you're not able to go and give yourself, then you ask somebody to give it on your behalf. It's also quite alright. Because if you can't go yourself to give. Then the fourth one, he gives what is rejected or thrown away. That's not good. At least if what is extra, is still in good condition, that's all right. But some people, like I've gone on alms round once when I was living in Ipoh in a cave. I went to this new village for alms round, and those people had never seen a monk go on alms round, so some of them started to give. One day I got a piece of bread with mold on it, or a little fungus on it. So that's not good to give what you want to throw away. And then the last one, to give holding views as to the future. That means some people give with expectations. They think, some people, they think when I give, I should make a wish. But it's not very good because it's a selfish thought. You're giving like trading. You're giving in hopes of getting something in return, and that's not so good. Because there is a little bit of selfishness in it, so the blessing, the merit is not so great. The next sutta is 5.15.148. Monks, these 5 are a good man's gifts. What 5? He gives a gift in faith, with deference, in time, with unconstrained heart. He gives a gift without hurt to self or others. And in giving a gift in faith, wheresoever the full result of that gift ripens, there comes wealth, riches, and great property, and he is fair to look upon, handsome, with the wondrous beauty of the lotus. And in giving a gift with deference, wheresoever the full result of that gift ripens, his children and wife, his slaves, messengers, and workfolk, hearken diligently unto him, lend ear, and serve him with understanding heart. And in giving a gift in time, wheresoever that ripens, there comes wealth, and the goods that come to him in time are abundant. And in giving a gift with unconstrained heart, wheresoever that ripens, there comes wealth, and he bends the mind to enjoy the fullness of the fivefold joy of the senses. And in giving a gift without hurt to self or others, wheresoever the full result of that gift ripens, there comes wealth, riches, and great property, and never from anywhere comes hurt to his property, either from fire or water, rajas or thieves, or impious heirs. Verily, monks, these are the 5 gifts of a good man. That's the end of the sutta. This is quite a good sutta. It tells you the result of giving with different conditions. A person who gives with faith, having a lot of faith, because in giving, you always, the result of giving is always that wealth comes back to you, riches and great property. And of course, depending on how much you give, and also depends on how virtuous you are, and the person to whom you give. But when a person gives in faith, having a lot of faith, in addition to wealth, he is born very beautiful or very handsome. And the second one, when a person gives with respect, then the result of it, in addition to wealth, then the children and wife, slaves, messengers, and workers, all listen to him and serve him with an understanding heart. That's the result of showing respect. So because you show respect when you give, then in addition to wealth, those people around you all show respect to you. The third one, the person gives in good time. In addition to wealth, the wealth comes to him also in a good time when he needs it, whenever he needs it. And giving in good time means when a person really needs it at that time, that is the time to give. Like when somebody asks you for help, and that person is really desperate, and you pretend you have something else to do, or you have nothing to give him. And another day when that person is rich, And then you go and maybe make him a gift. But that's not the time he wants. When he's already rich, you make a gift to him, he doesn't appreciate. It's only when he is very poor and is in need, you help him. That's the type of person usually when we think of our friends, when we think of those who have done us a service, we always remember the person who helped us when we were down and out, when we really needed help. That is the type of person who is a true friend. So when a person gives in good time like this, he will also, the wealth will come to him in good time also. Then another one, the fourth one, giving with unconstrained heart. That means there are some people give with a constrained heart, In other words, for example, they want to give, then they think, I'm going to give $10 is too much. I think I'll give $5. $5 too much. I think I make a gift of $2 or $1. So, or sometimes he make a gift after giving, then he goes home, then he regrets. So if you regret, then your blessing is reduced. So the result of it is next time when you in your next life or something, you're born and there's a lot of wealth, you come by a lot of wealth, you won't know how to enjoy it. The joy cannot arise because at that moment when you gave that gift, you had no joy in you. So next time, when the result ripens and great wealth comes to you, you have no joy in it, you don't know how to enjoy in it. There's a well-known story in the Dhammapada commentaries about a man who made a gift to a Pacheka Buddha. He was a very stingy person in that story. And his wife liked to give to monks and renunciants who came by the house and beggars and all that. But he never approved of his wife giving to these people who came to beg for food. He thought he's wasting his wealth. He thought he should save all that food, all that expenditure, and instead give it to his workers because his workers will work for him in return. So one day he was in a very good mood and he told his wife that the wife could give whatever food she liked to give that day. So happened a Pacheka Buddha came by and the wife cooked some good food and gave it to that Pacheka Buddha. And when the Pacheka Buddha left the house and walked away, this stingy man happened to come back. And he saw this Pacheka Buddha, this monk going away, and having come from his house, he knew that this monk must have got some food from his wife. So he stopped the monk and he asked the monk to open he opened the monk's bowl himself to see what was in the bowl. And when he saw the good food in the bowl, he closed the lid and then he went back and was not happy. He thought his wife wasted all his good food. So because of that, in the next 7 times, because of having given to a Pacheka Buddha, the next 7 times he was born as the richest man in that town. In that town for 7 lifetimes he was the richest man. But every time he was born as a rich man, he was so stingy. He used all the old things, and he ate also stale food, never knew how to enjoy his wealth. He was as good as a poor man for 7 lifetimes. And at the end of 7 lifetimes, having used up his good fortune and not having planted new blessings, after that lifetime he went to hell because his good karma bank account was depleted. Every time we come and enjoy life, we are using up our good karma bank account, our blessings bank account. If we don't know how to replenish it, it all gets used up. So we must know, we understand the law of karma. We know as we enjoy now, we keep saving, doing good deeds, and so that our blessings bank account, our merit bank account will increase, and we can continue to enjoy life. And then the last one, giving a gift without hurt to self or others. This is very important. That means when you give a gift, you must not harm other beings, you must not harm yourself. Not harm other beings means you must not go, for example, go to the market, you select a chicken, a live chicken or a fish and ask them to slaughter. And then after that you go and make an offering. That is causing harm to others. Causing harm to yourself means that you make that offering and it harms you in some way. And from this sutta, actually you find a contradiction with our Jataka tales. Because in our Jataka tales, there's a story about how the Bodhisatta or Bodhisattva in his previous life threw himself to feed down the hill, committed suicide to feed a tiger, a hungry tiger and the cubs. And this contradicts the sutta. That's why that Jataka tale is not quite acceptable, because it's not in the original discourses of the Buddha. It's just something that was compiled later. It's a kind of folk tale. And also the other Jataka story about how the Buddha gave away his wife and children to a beggar. That is also not acceptable, because when you give away, at least if he had given away his wife and his children to a millionaire, a wealthy man, so that they have a good life, that is understandable. That to give the wife and children away to a beggar who beat the children and probably beat the wife, and that is not logical. So there are a lot of these kinds of contradictions. When we study the sutta, we have to think, reflect on it. Then you will see some of these points. The next sutta is 5.15.149. The Buddha said, monks, these 5 things lead to the falling away of a monk who is partially released. What 5? Delight in work, in gossip, in sleep, in company, and he does not look at the mind as released. Verily, monks, these are the 5 things that lead to the falling away of a monk who is partially released. That's the end of the sutta. What is a monk who is partially released? This would probably refer to an Aryah. An Aryah is partially released from bondage, from samsara. So these are the things that obstruct a monk from progressing further. Too much work and activity, too much activity or work, and then gossip, talking with other monks, too much sleep, and the 4th one is he likes to mix with others in company. He's not aloof. There's a type of monk who is aloof. There's a type of monk who likes company. And then the last one, he does not look at the mind as released. This is, as I mentioned before, this is quite an interesting one. That means basically our mind is not in bondage. It's only the thinking that makes us in bondage. If all our thinking were to stop, there is no suffering as we see it. So these are the things that obstruct a monk, and this is already mentioned in one of the suttas earlier. 5.16.155. Monks, these 5 things lead to the confounding, the disappearance of true Dhamma, Sat Dhamma. What 5? Herein, monks, the monks master not Dhamma. This, monks, is the first thing that leads to the confounding, the disappearance of Sat Dhamma. Secondly, they teach not others Dhamma in detail, as heard, as learned. This, monks, is the second thing. Thirdly, they make not others speak it in detail, as heard, as learned. This, monks, is the third thing. They make no repetition of it in detail, as heard, as learned. This, monks, is the 4th thing. Again, monks, the monks do not in their hearts turn over and ponder upon Dhamma. They review it not in their minds. This, monks, is the 5th thing that leads to the confounding, the disappearance of Sat Dhamma. Monks, these are the 5 things that lead to the confounding, the disappearance of Sat Dhamma. So these are the conditions that cause the disappearance of the true Dhamma. Earlier, I think you remember, I mentioned another sutta also in the chapter of the force, that conditions that cause the disappearance of the true Dhamma. One is that the monks are stubborn; they don't want to train in the training, and other conditions. That sutta was Anguttara Nikaya 4.160. This is another sutta. There's another one also in the Samyutta Nikaya 16.13. So this sutta, the first condition is that the monks do not master Dhamma. They don't take the trouble to study the suttas, because in the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said Dhamma refers to the suttas, the original discourses of the Buddha and the four Nikayas. So if a monk does not master the suttas, he will find it hard to differentiate between the true Dhamma and the false Dhamma, because there's such a thing as false Dhamma mentioned in the Samyutta Nikaya 16.13. So the first thing is important for a monk to master the suttas. The second one, they do not teach others the suttas, the Dhamma in detail. That's the second one, they do not teach the suttas. The third one, they do not make others speak it in detail. That means their disciples, because in the days of the Buddha, they didn't have books. So to prolong the life of the Dhamma, they had to recite it and carry it on from generation to generation, so that they had to train the younger monks to speak it, to recite it, to memorize it. So this is the third condition. If they do not make others speak it in detail, that means memorize it. The fourth one, they make no repetition of it in detail, as heard, as learned. This one is the monks themselves, the senior monks, they do not repeat it. This is by repeating it that they memorize it, and also they understand it better. If you remember, this is one of the ways that a person attains Aryahut. Then the fifth one, they do not reflect and ponder over the Dhamma that they have learned. This is the fifth thing that leads to the disappearance, because by reflecting and pondering over Dhamma, we come to understand it better. So, this is another condition for the attaining of Aryahut. If you remember, one of the earlier suttas mentioned that the 5 ways of attaining Aryahut is learning the Dhamma. The second one is teaching the Dhamma. Third one is repeating the Dhamma. Fourth one is reflecting upon Dhamma. The fifth one is during meditation. These are the 5 times person attains Aryahut. So here these are the conditions. If we want to prolong the Dhamma, the first one is applicable to us now. We should master the Dhamma, master the suttas, because if we take no interest in the suttas, it will cause the suttas to disappear. That was already warned by the Buddha. And then we should teach the Dhamma also. As we know the Dhamma, so we should teach it to others. The third one is not quite applicable now, to make others speak it in detail, because we have it all written down in books. The fourth one, repeating it. This, if we have the interest and the inclination, it's good to repeat the suttas as we know them. The fifth one is to ponder over the suttas. This one is quite important. Whatever suttas, whatever Dhamma we hear, we should reflect on it and try to understand it better.